Today we want to talk to you about this. It's the new window guard that we're releasing, and you might just say, hey, it's another window guard, it's a stainless steel guard. A few key points, you know, it's a good size, so it's going to cover most of the areas that we're likely to be working on. It's rounded edges, keep any sharp edges away, so you're not going to risk scratching anything. But the most important thing about this is this piece here. So we've all had and used window guards in the past that have a felt backing that stick on to either a Lexan or a stainless window guard. And what happens is you get some tight belt mouldings, such as the BMWs, Audi, stuff like that, and you're going in and out, in and out, in and out. And what eventually happens is the felt starts to roll off of the window guard itself. As soon as that starts to happen, it's not long before the whole thing is torn off. The problem you have with that is if you don't realise that that felt has rolled and you go and pop that into a window, especially on a rear glass where a lot of rear glasses now have tints, any scratching on this is going to be so visible. So you may get away with it on a front glass, but you definitely won't get away with it on a rear glass. Plus the fact it's not going to be great for our customers to see, you know, after we've worked on their vehicle, a big scratch down the glass. This is called flocking. Flocking basically is these fibres, the flock, are electronically charged. So there's an adhesive put over the window guard itself. The flock is then electronically charged, which means it creates static. So it means the flock stands on end. Tiny fibres. And then it's fired onto the adhesive itself. So what happens is when it hits the adhesive, rather than laying down, because it's static, it stands up. That's then cured, and then what you have is a very robust surface. The individual fibres are actually bonded as opposed to bond onto a backing plate. This is going to go in and out of that door, and you're not going to have that issue with the felt or any backing on this rolling up. We have a vehicle here that has has a double glazed front window and a single glazed rear window. So what we'll do, we'll get up close and have a look at the difference in those. So if ever you do see this when you're out there working on vehicles, that you know that a stainless window guard is absolutely necessary. For this, for anyone that doesn't understand double glazing on vehicles or hasn't seen it, anyone new to the industry. So what I'll do is I'll have to put my finger on the back of this so the camera's got something to focus on. You can see it on there, but you can see there's a very thin outer sheet and then a slightly thicker inner sheet, and there's a laminate in between. So in between those you see a little divot, and that's how we can tell that we have laminate windows. A lot of vehicles use them on the front windows, as this one here. If we come to the rear, I'll put my finger there again, this is a traditional window. So you can see it's more of a domed top here. So a standard window, you're going to have the top of the window is going to look like this. Okay, and on a double glazed one, it's going to be very thin first sheet of glass, and then a very thin second sheet of glass, and then they'll be bonded in the middle. Okay, so what the top of the window will look like, it will have like this little drop in there. What's important about these, when you have the window sat below the door moulding, as most windows would be, when you come to put your standard Lexan glass in, Lexan window glass, what happens is there's a very high possibility of you hitting this very top edge of the glass, and this is the weak point. Okay, anywhere on the flat of the glass, it's not really such an issue unless you get a particularly thin piece of glass. Some of the lower end vehicles have very thin glass, in which I would recommend using a stainless steel window guard. Just gives that layer of extra protection on there. But what we want to try and do is we want to try and get away from point loading the glass. So anywhere where we can spread the load, but stay away from this top edge. This is the one, anyone that's broken a double glazed window will know this. What they'll have is when they finished their repair, if the window's gone, you'll see a little sort of chipping out here and then a ton of cracks coming down. It's a very expensive mistake to make. What we want to do is try and reduce that, the chance of that happening. Yeah, we just want to keep away from this top edge. So a good way of doing that would be, rather than having the window sat below the top of the door, just bring the window up a touch. So if I sat this window down into the door and I put a guard on there and I start pushing with a tool, this leading edge of this window is going to be prime for getting cracked. Whereas if I bring that window up, when I place my window guard in, just want to make sure there's no, okay, and I pop that down. Right. Now I just want to keep the guard slightly off the top of the window, okay, and then I put my wedge in there. Some guys like to use airbag wedges. Again, it just dissipates that loading, but you just want to keep, wherever possible, the window guard and any tooling off of this top edge. Be careful if you're ever working on a glass where you're coming diagonally. It's very, very easy as you're working to catch the edge over here that the glass isn't situated on. So just make sure that you set this correctly, and also make sure you take into consideration the curvature of the glass. So if you're working on any area around the front of the door here, around door hinges and stuff like that, and you're using a whale tail, typically how I have my whale tails. So if I'm working on there, this edge is coming away from the door. This edge, the very, very high chance, is going to catch the front of this glass. So we just want to be a little bit more careful and mindful that may happen. So put a glass guard wherever we need to stop that happening. Some technicians like to use stainless on everything, but where we should absolutely use it is these double glazed glasses. And obviously with this flocked one, you're not going to have any issues with any roll off from the felt. So it's going to last you a heck of a long time.